During the time when the cargo ship was hovering in position above the landing platform of the vacuum cleaner, Joe Bennett made changes to his helmet. The sky was a deep purple with golden clouds, and the horizon was covered with odd life organisms that he had no clue how to categorize. He peered down and saw the enormous alien world stretched out below him. He was astonished by the sight. Due to the fact that Joe was aware of the purpose that he had undertaken, he had a steely determination. This was the case despite the fact that the majority of people would consider it an extraordinary accomplishment to set foot in this environment. A voice could be heard resonating loudly over the intercom system of the ship. It said, "Welcome to war, you clumsy fellow beings." The voice of an alien representative stood out on account of the fact that it was taller than the voices of any of the ordinary people. Her scales danced like a living kaleidoscope, and her skin was a deep iridescent blue hue. Her scales were a feature of her appearance. At the landing ramp, the person was anticipating its arrival, during the moment that she was looking in their direction. Joe and the small group of ecologists and biologists, who were standing by his side, were the objects of her gaze. Her declaration was, "I am Zarth, the High Prefect." She spoke with a tone that was tinged with both uncertainty and an air of merriment, and her eyes, which were long and narrow, looked around the assembly with a sense of enjoyment. The statement that she made was, "I've heard that you have with you the greatest predators on Earth." She responded with, "Yes, excellent Joe," indicating that she was unconcerned with the problem being asked. "We come here to represent the incredible biodiversity of the Earth, and to suggest that our species may be potential allies in the context of defense against interstellar threats. Earth's predators are uniquely adapted for survival, and I think you'll be surprised by their capabilities." Zarth raised a brow, her eyes reflecting a faint, mocking glimmer. "We know your world's predators," she said, emphasizing the word with a hiss, "but your lions, bears, and pet tigers are feeble when compared to the creatures that roam Varak. We do not seek to insult, we merely wish to save you from the embarrassment of seeing them fail." A chuckle echoed among the alien onlookers who gathered around to see the creatures. These humans dared to offer. Joe gritted his teeth but maintained his composure. He had anticipated his response. Earth's wildlife was rarely taken seriously by intergalactic powers, who saw Earth as a backwater, with creatures far smaller and less deadly than their own towering beasts. But Joe was prepared. He had something they didn't expect. "Perhaps a demonstration would be appropriate," Joe said calmly, his eyes locking onto Zartha. Unfazed by her contempt, "I believe you'll find we have some surprises in store." Another low murmur rippled through the crowd. Zarth cocked her head, her scales flaring slightly, signaling mild interest. "Very well," she replied. "But be warned, human, if your creatures cannot survive, they will not be spared." Joe nodded. "Understood," he said, signaling to his team to prepare the transport small containment chamber. Zarth and her companions watched as the glass containment unit was slowly lowered, revealing a single, surprisingly small animal inside. At first glance, it looked almost pitiful. A low, stout creature, with coarse gray fur, a blunt snout, and claws that seemed disproportionately large for its size. "Behold Joe," announced with a wry smile, "the honey badger, a species revered on Earth not for its size but for its sheer ferocity." The alien stared in stunned silence for a moment, before the laughter began. Alien spectators of all shapes and colors, species from across the galaxy, snickered, scoffed one reptilian being, even slapped its tail against the ground in a mocking salute. "A honey badger, Zarth," exclaimed incredulous. "This rat-like creature is what you bring to face our apex predators?" She walked, almost disappointed, as though expecting more from these earthlings. "Don't be fooled by its size," Joe said, unshaken. "It may be small, but honey badgers are known for their unmatched resilience and aggression. They're relentless and known to survive venomous bites. overpowering larger animals, and adapt to almost any threat, I assure you. This little one won't disappoint." Another skeptical gaze passed over the audience, but Zarta waved a clawed hand, signaling her subordinates. "Very well. Bring out one of the Varak juveniles," she ordered, her tone tinged. "With disbelief we shall humor your claim." A loud gate creaked open at the far end of the arena, and a creature stepped forward, snarling. It was easily 6 times the honey badger's size, with slick, dark skin that seemed to absorb light, for heavily muscled legs and a maul line with razor-sharp teeth. It was a juvenile var, one of Vak's more common predators, yet lethal enough to be feared. Joe felt a flicker of doubt, but quickly squashed it. He knew honey badgers. This small-seeming, unassuming creature had battled lions, and shrugged off snake venom. He trusted its instincts, and sheer tenacity, he nodded to his assistant, who opened the containment chamber. The honey badger stepped out, taking stock of the new environment with an unhurried calmness, its claws sinking into the alien soil as it seemed to analyze the situation for threats or opportunities. He raised the antenna away. A moment nothing happened. The Var-C eyed its opponent with a kind of lazy disdain, likely seeing no more than a mid-morning snack. It advanced, confident, jaws parting to reveal a twisted mass of teeth. The honey badger, unimpressed, bared its own sharp teeth in reply, emitting a growl that sounded almost comical. The var cow lunged. In an instant, the honey badger sprang into action. It was a blur of movement, dodging the var cow's initial attack and digging its claws into the beast's neck. The var cow reared back, surprised, eyes but the honey badger clung on, tearing at its thick hide. With a relentless fury, gasps rippled through the crowd as the small creature twisted and bit with a ferocity that belied its size. Zara's mocking smile faded, replaced by a look of genuine surprise. Within moments, the Var-C stumbled back, bleeding. From multiple wounds, the honey badger released its grip, standing its ground as the alien predator retreated, emitting an uncertain growl. The crowd was silent. Joe looked at Zarth, a slight smile creeping across his face. "So, still think Earth's creatures aren't worth your consideration?" Zarta was speechless, her gaze fixed on the little creature standing defiantly in the center of the arena for the first time. Earth's unassuming warrior had won the respect of an alien world. The arena buzzed with an uneasy quiet as the honey badger returned to its holding space. Aliens from every corner of the galaxy glared at one another, their expressions of disbelief palpable. Joe watched them carefully, his satisfaction concealed behind a calm expression. He had known that the honey badger would be able to hold its own, but the sheer audacity of it had stunned even him. This small creature had accomplished something that no other animal on Earth had successfully accomplished. It had captured the weary respect of the Vorakai prefect. Zarth broke the silence, her eyes fixed on Joe with a newfound intensity. "This creature is not as simple as it appears." She waved her clawed hand, calling over her advisors. They whispered among themselves in a language foreign to human ears, a symphony of clicks, and growled. Her tone, once dripping with condescension, now held a thread of curiosity. "Your honey badger demonstrated remarkable persistence, but that was merely a juvenile varl. Our real predators are far deadlier." Joe met her gaze. "I'd expect nothing less from your world's apex creatures," he replied with confidence, "but resilience is a fundamental trait of Earth's. Wildlife, their adaptable and relentless traits, honed through millennia of survival on our planet." Zartada's lipless mouth curved into what Joe could only assume was a smile. "I will allow this honey badger to face our next predator." She signaled to a guard, who raised a high-frequency signal beacon to initiate the next challenge. "Bring forth the scraw." The arena's heavy doors trembled open, and from within the shadows emerged the SCRA, a predator unlike anything seen before. The creature's body was elongated, covered in sleek chitinous armor that gleamed dark blue in the alien light, for massive psych legs clawed the ground as it advanced. Its compound eyes walking onto the honey badger with eerie intelligence. Its mandibles clicked as it tasted the air, sensing its opponent. Joe glanced down at the honey badger, who sniffed the ground unperturbed by the towering creature. Before it spoke, it convinced that this time the honey badger's luck had run out. Zarth herself looked amused, but no longer skeptical. "Let us see if your little warrior can stand against one of Vac's elite hunters." The scraw struck first, lunging forward with a speed that left the crowd gasping. Its front claws descended like a falling guillotine, and it let out a high-pitched screech that reverberated through the arena. But the honey badger darted to the side, just out of reach, its tiny body moving with unexpected grace. It was fearless. Joe had seen this confidence in the honey badger's eyes before, but here, under the gaze of thousands, it was magnificent. But the honey badger responded with a fierce snarl, charging straight for the scraw. With a flash of its sharp claws, it slashed at the creature's leg joint, digging in deep. The scraw reeled, its mandibles flaring open in what could only be rage, trying to shake off its opponent. But the honey badger held on, sinking its teeth into the exposed muscle beneath the scraw's armor. The crowd gasped as green blood oozed from the wound. Joe couldn't help but smile. The honey badger was more than holding its own. Zarth watched in stunned silence, her expression a mixture of shock and the scraw, who was now truly enraged, thrashed his body, throwing the honey badger off momentarily while it scuttled forward again. But the honey badger bounced back and scathed, and it seemed to be energized by the scraw's anger. With a low growl, it launched itself at the scraw, dodging its claws and lunging at its unprotected underbelly. Joe sensed the shift in the air, and his eyes were fixed on the honey badger. His advisors, who were normally silent, murmured among themselves with their eyes fixed on the honey badger. Joe sensed the shift in the air, and he sensed that the creature was no longer a curiosity, but a legitimate challenger. A move that stunned the crowd. The honey badger sank its teeth into a soft spot just beneath the scraw chest plating. The alien creature shrieked, its segmented limbs shuddering, before collapsing in a heap. The honey badger stood atop his defeated foe, panting but triumphant, green blood staining its coat. Joe's heart swelled with pride as he looked at the stunned crowd. High Prefect Zarth regarded him with newfound respect, the faintest hint of admiration flickering in her alien gaze. The previously dismissive chuckles had vanished. Now this honey badger, this fearless one, is formidable. She paused, glancing at her advisors as if to gauge their reaction. Perhaps Earth and Vorquat have more in common than we believed. The murmur among the aliens grew louder. Joe could feel the tide shifting, the veil of disdain lifting, and a sense of pride and vindication surged through him as he met Zara's gaze with a smile. The arena was filled with silence, interrupted only by the hum of alien machinery. Zarth nodded slowly with each movement, and each movement was calculated. "It appears that the creatures of Earth are not as insignificant as I had previously believed." In try to break the stillness, Joe replied, "Does this indicate that Earth's animals are worthy of your consideration?" She proclaimed that there is one more test, and it is a species that is dreaded even by our finest hunters. If your honey badger is able to survive this last trial, then she will be able to break the hush. Zarth nodded, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "But let us not celebrate just yet." She gestured toward her advisors, who began tapping on holographic panels with renewed urgency. Zarf's eyes narrowed in thought. "But let us not celebrate just yet." Zarf's eyes were steady and confident now that they were no longer only entertainment for the alien audience, but rather recognized as warriors of a sword. Zarf's eyes were steady and confident. May have more to discuss. The tension in the arena thickened. The crowd leaned forward, eager to see the next trial. Joe, however, glanced at the honey badger, now pacing impatiently within its containment. He knew it was ready, its fierce spirit undimmed by the trial so far. Whatever came next, he was certain it wouldn't back down as the alien guards prepared the next challenge. Joe felt a thrill of anticipation. Earth's warrior was only just beginning to show its true mettle. The arena was charged with an electric tension as the crowd settled. into a focused silence across from Joe. High Prefect Zarth signaled to her guards, her expression both solemn and grim. This was it, the final test. Joe's gaze drifted to his honey badger pacing within its containment. Unfazed by the bloodstains still smeared across its coat, somehow the small creature seemed to sense the gravity of what lay ahead, and its restlessness only grew. A low rumble shook the ground as the arena doors creaked open once more from the shadows. Emerged a creature unlike any Joe had seen. A ferocious, a legendary predator among the Kaunan. Vorak known for its savagery and cunning, its body was semi and massive, supported by 6 muscular legs each ending in tone-tipped claws that scraped across the ground. Scales lined its back, armored and shifting like living rock, while its elongated head was adorned with 2 rows of piercing eyes, each a deep, menacing shade of crimson. Even the spectators seemed nervous, their murmurs subdued as they took in the cautious, towering form. Joe glanced at Zarth, noticing a rare flash of apprehension on her face. "The Vorish is our apex predator," Zarth announced. "It hunts and packs and is known for its intelligence and resilience. Even our finest hunters approach it with caution." Joe felt a spark of doubt. The honey badger ferocity was unmatched, but the ferocious was something else entirely, a creature born of an alien world, designed to withstand and dominate. He took a deep breath, suppressing his worry. "You've got this," he whispered, barely audible to the honey badger. The containment doors slid open and the honey badger stepped into the arena, immediately assessing the towering creature before it, its sharp eyes narrowed, its stance low and ready. The crowd's tension escalated. Every spectator leaning forward to watch Earth-Fearless One faced the deadliest predator on Vorak. The ferocious lowered its head, nostrils flaring as it caught the honey badger's scent. Then with a roar that shook the ground it charged, its 6 legs thundered against the arena floor as it moved with terrifying speed, jaws snapping open to reveal rows of serrated teeth. But the honey badger stood its ground. Just as Aorkosh's jaws snapped down, the honey badger dodged to the side so close that one of its claws grazed the beast's scaly skin. Unfazed, the honey badger lunged, latching on to the Vos's foreleg, and, sinking its teeth into the exposed joint, a screech tore from the Vor's throat, echoing through the arena as green ire oozed from the wound. Enraged, the Vor swung its massive tail, throwing the honey badger back several yards. The crowd gasped, certain the small creature had met its match. But Joe knew better. The honey badger scrambled to its feet, undeterred, its eyes filled with an unwavering fury. It growled low, a primal sound that sent a shiver through the arena. The Vorkaja hesitated, a brief flash of confusion crossing its many eyes. Sensing its advantage, the honey badger charged again, this time aiming for the creature's vulnerable underbelly. It dove beneath the Vor's legs, clawing, biting at the tender flesh, each strike causing the alien predator to stagger. Desperation flickered in the Vaza's eyes as it twisted, trying to dislodge the relentless attacker. But the honey badger clung on, tearing into muscle and tissue with savage precision. The crowd was on the edge of its seats, their disbelief slowly morphing into awe. Even Zarth, who had stood so proudly moments before, now wore an expression of reluctant admiration. The Vorosh let out a pained howl, finally managing to throw the honey badger off its staggered back. Its movements slower now, blood dripping from numerous wounds, but the honey badger was already on its feet, charging once more. With a final fearsome lunge, it clamped its jaws around the Vos's neck, digging in with a ferocity that seemed almost supernatural. It shook its head violently, tearing through scale and sinew till with one last gurgling roar. The Vorish collapsed, silence filled the arena. The crowd stared wide-eyed as the honey badger stood atop, its fallen foe, chest heaving, its coat matted with the Vos's blood. There was no question it had won. Joe exhaled, his heart pounding with exhilaration across the arena. Zara's gaze softened, her eyes shifting from the honey badger to Joe, with a look of grudging respect. Hearst's fearless one has proven Worth, she declared, her voice firm yet reverent, this creature is beyond mere survival. It possesses a strength of spirit unmatched even by our mightiest. Hunter's Joe inclined his head, accepting the acknowledgement. He looked down at the honey badger, pride and admiration swelling within him. It had done the impossible, winning over a crowd that had once laughed at it. As the alien, spectators erupted into a cacophony of approval, clapping their appendages and roaring in various alien tongues. Zarth approached Joe. She extended a hand. "Eh?" Gesture rare among the Vorak. "It seems we have underestimated Earth and its inhabitant," she said. "Perhaps we have more to learn from one another." Joe took her hand as gripped firm. Earth may be small, but its creatures are fierce. And resilient. This honey badger, like all of us, fights not just to survival, but to prove its place in the universe. Zarth nodded, a spark of mutual understanding passing between them. The honey badger, now resting, but still watchful, was a testament to the unbreakable spirit of Earth, a spirit that had at last won the game. Joe was well aware that this alliance, this just acknowledged recognition, was only the beginning of things. Despite the Volrash, he was aware that the cosmos contained far more perilous threats than the Volrash itself. With the wild beasts of Earth at his side, he could feel that there were problems that were still to come, despite the fact that they were prepared to confront whatever lied ahead. End of Chapter 1. Joe got down on his knees to check on the honey badger, and while he did so, the echoes of the alien's acclaim continued to ricochet throughout the stadium. When the honey badger gazed up at Joe, its eyes, which were known for their high level of intelligence, showed a hint of contentment. Each rise and fall of its chest was accompanied by a shallow but consistent breathing pattern, its chest a testament to the indomitable spirit that had brought this far. Joe allowed himself a moment of relief. Earth's unlikely champion had survived. More than that, it had triumphed. High Prefect Zarta watched in silence, her expression softened by an emotion Joe hadn't expected to see. Reverence. She moved forward slowly, her iridescent scales catching the light as she extended a hand. This time toward the honey badger itself. "In all my years, I have not encountered such resilience." She murmured, her voice stripped of its earlier condescension. "Your creature embodies something rare and precious. A spirit that does not waver, even in the face of certain death. It reminds us of a time when our own species fought to survive on Vorica." Joe nodded, understanding. That Zara's admiration was more than a diplomatic gesture. Her respect was genuine, born from seeing the honey badger tenacity firsthand. He stroked the honey badger's fur, his voice low but filled with pride. "On Earth we call it fearless, but it's more than that. It's a testament to survival and strength in adversity." Zarta studied the small creature, her eyes shifting as if weighing the decision of a lifetime. Finally, she turned back to Joe, her voice steady and resolute. "Earth resilience should be shared, not overlooked. We in Vorak had become complacent, relying on our technology and our power, forgetting what it means to fight with nothing but grit and determination." She glanced at her advisors, who nodded in silent agreement. Clearly as moved by the display as she was, Joe could sense the shift in her stance. An opening prefect. "Perhaps it's time our worlds stood together. We may be small, but creatures like this honey badger prove that even the smallest man and woman cares for our planet. But I hope our heroes still say, 'Keep on, warriors,' whether we like them or not." Earth could benefit from allies as powerful as the Vortsar. Inclined her head thoughtfully, considering his words. The crowd's hum grew softer as the spectators leaned forward, sensing the gravity of the moment. "An alliance," she said slowly, letting the word linger, "would indeed be mutually beneficial. Your creatures offer resilience that is unknown here. A reminder of the raw power of adaptation. We would welcome Earth's knowledge of such creatures just as we would share our own strengths." Joe saw the spark of opportunity. With Vax's resources and technology, and Earth's diverse resilience, both worlds could face threats far greater than the arena's trials. Together we could share knowledge and to strengthen both our species. Earth has many more creatures like this one, he said, gesturing to the honey badger. They may be small, but they are each adapted to face what our world has thrown at them. One of Zarth's advisors stepped forward, his voice reverent. If this creature is but one of many, Earth must indeed be a formidable world. An alliance would allow us to learn more of such beings and strengthen our own defenses. Zar's gaze lingered on the honey badger, and Joe sensed a profound change in her perspective. The Vorak honor strength, endurance, and resilience above all else, she said, addressing both Joe and the crowd. This creature, those who protect it have shown all three an alliance between Earth and Vorak would serve as a testament to the power found in unity. As she extended her hand once more, this time as a formal gesture of alliance, Joe shook it with a firm grip. "Hi, Prefect. I think we'll both have much to learn from each other." The crowd erupted into cheers. This time, without mockery or doubt, they had witnessed something extraordinary. A bond forged between two segregation situations. Up to this point, all too often, the people divided into clans and each looking for their own goals of life. Resilience in its purest form, Zarth straightened. Addressing the gathered assembly, let it be known that the VOR, the Comprehensive Review of Research and Data, from this day forward, we will stand with Earth, we will train with them, we will learn from them, and we will make sure that together we will confront whatever obstacles the cosmos may offer. Joe was able to sense the thrill and optimism that was developing within himself. This alliance was more than he had hoped for. It was an opportunity to ensure a future in which the animals of his planet were regarded as anything more than nothing more than novelties. He was fortunate to have this opportunity. The time had come for them to become warriors of their own kind, and their position in the galaxy was firmly established. As the honey badger raised its head to take a whiff of the air, it gave off the impression that it was basking in the brightness of expectation. Crowds roared. Joe smiled. They had earned the respect of the Vorquack, and with it a future filled with new possibilities. But he knew this was only the beginning. Together, Earth and Vor would prepare for the battles ahead, their alliance a promise, etched into the fabric of the cosmos. And as Joel LED'd his tense companion back toward the transport ship, he felt certain of one thing. Wherever they went next, they would no longer walk alone.